On a busy downtown sidewalk, the city moved at a relentless pace. People hurried past each other, their faces illuminated by phone screens, their hands clutching coffee cups. Everyone was chasing something, lost in their own world. But near the corner of the street, almost invisible to the rushing crowd, sat a quiet man in worn clothes. His beard was messy, his coat old and frayed. Most people who glanced his way simply assumed he was just another beggar, a fixture of the urban landscape. Beside him sat a calm, majestic golden retriever. The dog's eyes tracked the crowd. Alert and patient, there was something strangely protective in its gaze. A few feet away, right in the middle of the sidewalk, lay something valuable, a designer leather wallet. It was thick, clearly filled with cash and cards. People walked past it again and again. Some noticed it, their pace slowing for just a moment, their eyes darting around. But before anyone could act on their impulse, the golden retriever would quietly stand up and position itself over the wallet. It didn't growl or bark, it just stood guard with a silent, unwavering presence. A young businessman in a sharp suit was the first to make a move. He spotted the wallet, looked around quickly, and then bent down as if to tie his shoe. But as his hand reached out, the dog stepped forward, gently blocking his path. The businessman hesitated, a flicker of annoyance on his face. "Hey, move," he whispered, trying to shoo the dog away. The dog didn't budge. Instead, it calmly sat down directly on the wallet, its intelligent eyes fixed on the man. With a frustrated scoff, the man straightened up and walked away, disappearing back into the crowd. Minutes later, a teenage boy on a skateboard noticed the wallet. He hopped off his board, his eyes wide with discovery. But as he reached for it, the dog softly placed one paw on top of the leather. The message was clear, as if the dog was saying, "This isn't yours." The boy frowned, shrugged his shoulders as if to say worth a shot, and skated off. All the while, across the sidewalk, the man in worn clothes watched everything unfold. He said nothing, his expression unreadable. He was simply observing, waiting, testing the heart of the city. Finally, an elderly woman stopped nearby. She noticed the dog sitting so protectively over the wallet. And then her eyes drifted to the quiet man sitting against the wall. She watched for a moment, before slowly approaching. As she bent down to pick up the wallet, the dog stood calmly but didn't resist her. The woman walked over to the beggar. "Excuse me," she said gently, "is this yours?" The man looked up, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He took the wallet and opened it. Inside were several credit cards, a thick wad of cash, and an ID card. The name on it read Alexander Hale, one of the richest and most reclusive investors in the city. The elderly woman gasped. "My goodness. You should return this immediately," she urged. The man looked at her and nodded. "You're right?" Then he slowly began to stand up. He reached up to his face and removed the messy, fake beard. The small crowd that had gathered nearby froze. The man was no beggar. He was Alexander Hale himself, the billionaire from the ID card. People stared in disbelief, whispering amongst themselves. The woman who returned the wallet looked completely stunned. "But why?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Why would you do this?" Alexander smiled warmly and looked down at his loyal golden retriever, who now sat proudly by his side. "Because money can buy many things," he said, his voice clear and steady, "but it cannot buy character." He turned his gaze to the onlookers. "Today, I watched hundreds of people walk past a test of honesty. They were too busy, too tempted, or too indifferent to do the right thing." Then he looked back at the elderly woman, his eyes filled with gratitude. "But one person," he said, "one person chose kindness." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten check for a very, very large amount. "This is for you," he said, handing it to her. for doing what was right when you thought no one important was watching. The woman stared at the check, speechless, tears welling in her eyes. As the reality of the moment sank in, the golden retriever wagged his tail, its job complete. Because sometimes the greatest test of our character isn't the treasure we find, but the choice we make when we believe no one is looking. If this story touched your heart, don't just scroll past. Share it so someone else can feel the light too. Thanks for watching.